John Mulaney has that whole bit about the voice that you get when someone knocks on the bathroom door. He's like, all of a sudden become like a carnival announcer. Like, someone's in here. It's like, absolutely.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing. I don't know that I have a recording voice. I hate hearing my own voice through recordings, though. Is that a thing that you usually would have doing via recordings?
It just always sounds different. Batman was a real eye opener because I was like, man, my voice is so deep. And then I listened back to him like, I barely hit puberty. Because then you hear like Kevin Conroy or you hear like Titus Welliver.
That's a level of depth that no one else can achieve. Like that's like.
But his talking voice, like I saw him a couple weeks ago in Florida, and like just his natural speaking voice is just. I have the toast. Where is the jam? It's just butter. It's just boof. So good. So good.
Were you eating breakfast with him?
Troy.
I was eating breakfast with Kevin Conroy.
That's nice.
I like your shirt. Your shirt's a nice setup for us here.
It's a nice setup. That is a conversation-leading shirt is what that is.
Yeah, you do it, Austin. You got it. You go with the segue.
All right, go for it. We can talk about it. I'd love to talk about it.
It wasn't even a segue. It was more like just jamming like this thing and wedging it open, but
just an aggressive segue. So Troy,
aggressive.
The passive aggression on display
Let's
already.
talk
on
about
the
your first sexual encounter.
Yeah.
What?
Sure. Love.
Speaking
death, and
of
robots.
toast. All right.
It was all three of those things.
All three of those things.
What do you want to know?
We avoided discussion, kind of.
Well, we talked about the Troy Baker episode.
Barely though, like we danced around it.
We're aware that there was a director. We don't know who it was. Who directed the episode you did, Troy?
David, up and coming guy.
So you had breakfast with him in Florida.
It's a fun story.
That's what we call him.
It's a really fun story. So, right at the heart of COVID. This was May of last year, I believe, is when we.
That's like the final boss at the end of Resident Evil Village.
It's my favorite documentary about filmmaking. The heart of COVID.
Into the heart of COVID. That's a great. Do I have that behind me?
Oh, look, little Grant Kirkhope.
Little Grant Kirkhope. It's Benjo.
Okay.
Hello.
So right when we had realized that this thing wasn't going away and it started shutting down productions, there's this thing that came across the wire to my agent. It was like, hey, would you like to audition for this? And I was like, it's on camera. They wanted it on, for me to film myself because they weren't actually going in and having meetings. And I was like, that's just really awkward. I don't want to do that. And a lot of times I'll try to skate around that and say, I'll be open to a conversation with a creative director or with the producers or whatever. But I don't want to throw something out into the void that's completely wrong. So if we could have an informed conversation, then I can do something that maybe could be a little bit more helpful.
Question. Did they tell you for whom or what you were auditioning?
They said that I'd have to look back, and I think it was blatant that it was for Love, Death, and Robots. And I think after I did my first thing, no, actually, I think from the very beginning, it's like David Fincher will be directing. So I was like, all right, so that was a bait for sure. But Tim Miller and I have known each other for a long time, and I was like, I love that dude. And I didn't realize how incredible of a director and a writer and a producer he is. Like I've known him from Blur, and they did all the game trailers for Call of Duty and everything back in the day. He's a whole separate conversation, but that man is incredible, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. So I do the audition, and it was a little bit of a contentious one, just because of the nature of the process of doing on camera stuff, and even though it's something that will be animated. But long story short. Fincher says, I want to see you. So he was like, I want to meet with you in person. So I drove to a lot, and there was all these COVID protocol place and, things in place, and everyone was super weird. We did it outside under a tent, and we just instantly clicked. And I found out later that as I was
so you think, because, you were 20 feet apart and couldn't really analyze
most 20 feet apart.
Like, you can't see me when I'm smiling.
Yeah, exactly.
But
he seems like he likes me.
Sorry, Troy, when did it film?
He's smiling. So we started shooting in June.
Okay.
Turns out that wasn't Fincher. It was just
wasn't even him.
Yeah.
Different dude. But he was cool because like at the very end, as I was leaving, the casting director was like, I want you to know, I think it's important that you know this. As you were leaving, he just kind of watched you go and he was like, damn, I love that dude. I was like, well, that's a good sign. So we got to work together, and literally the first day of shooting, He shows up, he gathers cast and crew together, and he goes, "Good morning, everyone. I promise you by the end of the day, you will be tired. So will I. I just ask that you keep up with me." And I was like, "Oh, Captain, my Captain, let's go." I was ready. And
which fits the script as well, in fact.
It's true.
At the end of it, about halfway through, we would eat lunch together and stuff.
You treated the actors. You basically had to throw the actors down into the pit.
I'm trying to work out if Fincher is the crab
literally.
or Troy is. I don't know which one's which. In this.
I think Troy was just playing himself on the show.
The challenge of it was like inherent because this was the first shoot back during COVID. So this was like, how are we navigating this? And they were like, just let you know, there's now a flow of traffic. If you want anything, normally if like actors wander around set when they're not shooting, they'll go to the craft services table and they'll pick up some kind of snack or water, whatever. We had to text somebody; they would get it for us.
Wow,
we had bins.
That sounds great.
It's pretty smart. He was like, "Yeah,
I do that
would you
anyway.
Get me,
is that not how you order?
Please give me the coffee." But it was a weird thing, and it was like, how are we going to do this? But it actually offered a lot of hope that we could find a way through, and it actually specifically with me working in games offered a lot of hope because I was like, I know people that literally were like, I just got the break that I've been waiting for on this show. I'm going up to Canada, and then a week later, like, never mind, I'm coming back and I'm unemployed. And so there was a glimmer of hope that these people who typically work in either games or animation, who are constantly the tip of the spear in the vanguard of trying to find new ways to utilize technology or work around problems, would definitely be the one that brought the entire industry of shooting back to work. And so we would lunch was like the only time where you could only have two people at a table. They would sit apart, but Fincher and I would take lunch together a lot, and he was editing Mank at the same time. He's like, "You want to see a rough cut?" I was like, "Hell yeah, I want to see this." And we just got into these great conversations. And I finally got it.
How long was the shoot again?
About 2 weeks.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It was
I remember because obviously everyone watching this will probably guess that we have NDA conversations before and after the bit which we put out, and like I remember the time you were doing recording that we've never actually signed an NDA. When you were working with him, like it was so wonderful to see, like you were just so visibly
lit
just
up,
creatively fulfilled.
Man.
Like it was just there was an aura about you that was really cool.
He I didn't know what to think because you hear stories about people, and especially anyone of that level of notoriety and success, you don't get to that mountain, to the top of that mountain with.
I would have just only asked him about Alien.
Dude,
I would have been that guy.
I'm trying to work out. I've got a book on Fincher in the next room, and the urge to go and grab it just to bring
If
back.
I can't see it directly behind you, Mike,
strong.
I don't believe you. I don't think you have it.
Yeah, I don't think actually those are the only books you have.
That's a
There's
lie.
just
See the chart? There is a
Some of
chart
those
I
books
bought.
look like dinosaurs.
one of
A
them.
lot of them are about dinosaurs.
Ooh, there is a dinosaur.
Well, there goes the spoiler alert.
I'm spoiler alert. Yeah,
Dinosaur book.
Mike's sure reading a lot about dinosaurs at the moment.
I finally at one of
Why
the
is that book
lunches
on my shelf?
I asked him. I was like, "Hey, I think I've figured you out." I said because you have all these voices coming at you from either actors or producers or writers or whomever, and I said you could be the person who's like, "Yeah, I think I'm going to let my career stand on its own merit and go fuck off." And he listens to people. He goes, "It's creative Darwinism. I'm open to any best idea wins. I don't care." And I said, the reason why you like to do so many takes is, he goes, because if they let me shoot, I just want to shoot. Just let me shoot. I'll shoot all day. He's like, I just love it so much. So the passion, great. I was like, man, that's truly someone who's found a way to professionalize their passion in just a very, very cool way. But he's.
Do you have a sense from that? Just again, jumping on that point before you move to the next one.
Sure.
Do you get a sense of how someone like that can balance that with the diminishing returns that eventually start to appear when you're like, okay, take 17. It will never get better from this point forward. There's just no way it could get better. Like,
I don't think he feels that way. I think that
but the cast must start to feel that way,
sure.
right?
And there's a lot of stuff where I could see him doing it was like, I'm going to do this because I need to break down your idea. You came in full and I need you to come in empty. And trying to skirt around something. There's a shoot that I did where we were in the middle of the scene, and the camera was not necessarily looking at me, but I was definitely could be within frame. And the DP came up out of nowhere while we were shooting, grabbed me by the shoulders and started moving me. And it was jarring, but I realized what he was doing was he was positioning me so that
shoulder.
Yeah, he was like, camera's looking down here, but he just kept moving me. And I had one of two choices. I could fight against it, or I could just go with it. And I just, wherever he wanted to move me, he moved me. And we cut. And the camera op that was down there, he was like, cut. He goes, Jesus Christ, that was the most terrifying thing I've ever seen. He goes, because your shadows were just playing all over her face. And I was like, you saw that? He goes, I'm sorry. I didn't want to get in there and say anything, but I saw this opportunity. I was like, whatever you want to do. And it's those moments where it's like, the natural tendency within me can be to push back or be afraid or be uncomfortable and say, you don't get to do that to me, or I want to have some agency in this. And sometimes you just fucking let go.
I think a certain musical number with Merle Dandridge suggests a willingness to just roll with whatever
let's
is
just
thrown
go
away.
for it.
Yes,
let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, I always have had a hard time accepting
Creeper.
that was a real thing.
There's a
Jesus,
50-50 chance that he has pants on right now.
Eerie.
It's a ghost in my house.
Yeah, seriously.
Actually,
that's just Banjo. Like after
Banjo walked
It's human
upright.
form.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a wear Banjo.
Touched the rune or whatever. And
There's actually a director of photography grabbing him by the shoulders and
Just moving him.
Troy, can I ask a question? Troy, can I ask a question?
Always. Yes, you.
Mike Biffle here, Biffle Papers.
Thank you.
May I ask a
Hi,
question, please,
Troy.
Troy?
Biffle
Over here.
Games. It's more of a comment than a question. No, I'm joking. If you can, I don't know how much like this stuff you're not allowed to talk about, but in terms of like filming process, is it that they're filming this? Is it like the full mocap suits and face cameras? It's that setup.
Yeah, we did full
I get a
performance
mental
capture.
image of you and Finch.
And they typically, what's funny, and I really want this.
Is he in the mocap gear as well?
Yes,
Does he do that for
he's not actually
solidarity?
there.
Yeah.
He's mocapped in. So we got to the point to where, because of how COVID protocols were, we were kind of having to go in for coverage on face. So that meant that only one person or maybe two people at a time were actually wearing the full camera rig. As COVID protocols became more and more standardized and we were starting able to have it be a safer place, we could loosen up on that. And so face cams became no problem. But specifically for that, it was like, we can do this with two people. And everybody else, if you don't have to have, your mask off, keep your mask on. So everyone, it was a big cast. It was like 12 to 15 people. And they had a huge set build. The thing where I kind of come down, if you watch the episode, I come down into the hold of the ship. That was a staircase that they actually built.
Oh, wow.
I was
It
going to
was
ask, because the shot where you're
It
running
looked
towards
like it.
camera.
I don't see how
and-
you do it otherwise. Yeah.
I did all that.
I was like,
Alanah
that
Pearce
has
here.
to be.
Pierce.
Yeah,
Chair
Alanah Pearce,
recognizes-
please. Thank you. Yeah.
Troy over here. Troy.
Yes, you Alanah.
What do we talk about the giant
one more
crab?
spoiler. Go ahead.
Mine's a much less intellectual question.
Yeah.
What giant crab? What do they do? Like, is that a prop?
That was me, Alanah.
So there was, the main thing is that he had the puppet that he was kind of the meat puppet that he was talking through. And so that person was on set. So I had,
that's interesting.
yeah, so he was there kind of being
doing the
slowly decomposing body talking to me. But there was always like, remember, behind him is...
But was that a person or was that like a prop?
It was a person. It was an actual person, actual actor. And then I believe I want to give credit to him. Fred Tatasciore came in and actually was the final voice, because you get Fred Tatasciore to do...
Hold your hand up, Mike. It might focus.
Like this.
Usually doing this help. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
There you go. That's why we have seasoned professionals on the show to help me out. It's good.
But
So they just basically tried to remind you that there was a. Did you know what it would look like ahead of time?
we had some concept art because it is based upon a short story.
I loved it. I thought it was so well done. The story's brilliant. Like the morality questions, like it was. I just loved it. I thought it was fantastic. One of the best episodes of that show I've ever seen.
Something that I have to give absolute credit to Fincher for. we got to the point where we were just running out of time because we had to go in and get coverage for all these little pieces, and it came to the point to where either everybody was going to have to stay late, like a day, or I would shoot my coverage by myself. And I said, I'll go late. You can cut everybody else home. And he goes, really? I was like, do you have any doubts? He goes, nope, I think you can do it. I was like, okay. So it ended up...
Show up with a sleeping bag that day?
What they ended up doing is like, we need to shoot a bunch of like just stuff in here. So we're going to move, Fincher, you and Troy are going to go into this control room, different part of the studio. We're going to give the mocap stage to everybody else. And it ended up just being David and I with me in the mocap helmet in like not even the recording booth, but actually just like the control room of the studio, working through all the scenes. And I think those were the ones, every one of my scenes, I think, came from there. Like,
really?
Yeah.
That was going to be my question of if it's weird working on an ensemble piece where you don't have, because I assumed because of the COVID stuff, you wouldn't have all of the ensemble at all times when you're shooting like on the set.
Everybody was
That's
there.
even more removed, right? Oh, everyone was there around you.
Everybody was there. Okay. And so like when there was that one thing where
limiting the number.
No, when Rahul did Midnight Mass, which was 2020. That's a COVID production, and it was always everybody there. They just
appreciate it, but in that situation, you obviously you literally need that for the recording. I wondered if they'd cut corners or something, but it sounds like fair play. Yeah, no, good.
That's why they were able to say we could have two people with masks off, but like during rehearsal and everything, a lot of times that's still the case now. Like there's shoots that I'm doing where they're like, if we aren't rolling, masks are on. It's like, okay.
Yeah, Rahul is also still doing that. It's pretty nuts. Like some of the COVID protocols, he currently has to get tested every day.
Yeah, we get tested every day.
Yeah. And if somebody gets COVID, then
they're executed.
Yeah, basically. Did
you see the red letter media?
I probably can't say.
Did you see the red letter media?
No.
Sorry,
go ahead.
The red letter media thing. Sorry, apologies. I just talked over.
No, you're okay. I realized I was going to say something and probably that.
Yeah.
So I have something to share.
Did you see, before you share that, Austin, the red letter media thing where they've started noticing that like actors, sometimes you can see like the indentations of masks in stuff because obviously you're taking off straight before you shoot.
Yeah.
So that's now a thing where you start the intersection of 4K and mask wearing is kind of creating that weird thing. And you wonder if that we're nearly a point where they're going to start like CGing that out of shots and stuff.
Like the Henry Cavill mustache.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, like a lower stakes.
That's so nuts because it'll be like such a reflection of when it was shot. If this ever ends, I don't have faith anymore. I think we may be in this forever at this point.
The arc of this podcast is strong. You know when a TV show like subtly alludes to like world events happening in the background, this podcast has that.
We've not said the word even. No, we have. Okay, we have. Just
what?
Not much.
What word?
Nothing. Something's happening.
Star Wars?
I don't. Something's happening.
Star Wars.
Oh, Austin, what did you have to
share?
share?
Austin.
I was just being annoying, but I did have another question. I remember you.
Please raise your hand.
I like this episode.
Yeah, let's be professional. Please. It's a good episode, isn't it, Troy? You like this? Austin Wintry,
yes,
Austin Wintry Productions.
Oh.
Hi, yeah.
Shit!
Moved.
Hand goes up.
That is a.
I have a question.
Format change. I like it.
Sorry, Spotify listeners who missed the amazing coup de grace I just pulled off. You, as Mike said, you definitely were on cloud nine, and you said something like it was like a college education in 2 weeks. And what?
I just having fun.
Don't tell the Spotify listeners. Don't tell the Spotify listeners. This is the visual medium.
I'm getting the Joaquin Phoenix, but I'm curious because
that was a deep cut right there. That was a long walk. I had to go for. I was like, oh, I see what he's doing.
Don't know what that's a reference to.
Gladiator.
What? Oh, yes. That was my favorite movie when I was a kid. I don't know what that says about me.
That's a fun caveat.
Yeah, that you love.
I don't know what that says about me as a child.
Movie. It still holds up.
It was my favorite movie for a very long time.
Not today.
Very closely competing with
arguably Ridley
James
Scott
Gunn
hasn't
Scooby-Doo.
topped that.
Ridley Scott has not topped that.
Like he's made some good movies since then, but I don't think he's topped that one.
Kingdom of Heaven director's cut, maybe.
Whoa.
I've heard.
I said it.
I've heard the director's cut is
There's
a
a
massive
director's
improvement.
cut, which is.
I like the movie. I like Kingdom of Heaven.
Would you like an hour and a half more of that movie? I got the cut for you.
No.
But is it truly better than Gladiator?
Gladiator is just flawless.
Gladiator's
flawless.
tight. I think that's the thing with
Braveheart's a flawless
is
movie.
very concise.
I heartily agree.
Braveheart is a flawless movie. Okay.
I think Ghostbusters is a perfect movie.
Ghostbusters is a perfect movie.
Yeah.
We could sit here and have Austin. I'm not forgetting you.
Austin, I'm dying to hear
Austin,
the question.
I'm also not forgetting that you have a question.
We could say what's an example
Troy, what do you
of a
think
perfect
Fincher's
song?
favorite movie is?
A perfect
His own.
song.
No, a perfect song.
Like by the way, a perfect song. You're gonna laugh at this. An example of it. The best example is "Hey Jude." Perfect song. I'm talking about the recording of it, the execution of it, everything.
Great documentary
it's
as well.
Perfect song. I would also say, Bryan Adams, "Have You Ever Really Loved a Woman?" is a perfect song. You don't have to like the song, but it sets out to do exactly what it wants to do perfectly.
I almost feel like a lot of songs could be considered perfect. A lot more than other mediums.
Probably.
Right?
But Braveheart is a perfect movie.
There's probably a lot more songs than other entry.
I've got meta, and I'm just enjoying watching.
Like,
it.
there's
what how do you define perfection? Like movies.
Well,
for me,
songs often
perfection
set out to do what they intend.
I think my definition of perfection would be Austin finishing his.
Okay,
No. We'll delay until the podcast is at 50
Nice.
minutes.
Yeah, I feel there's an interesting. This is like we're basically in the Boba Fett. Like let's just pause this show and do Mandalorian for a few episodes.
Yeah.
Like we'll come back to my question sometime.
Yeah.
But my favorite thing about it is that you don't get annoyed by it, we don't get annoyed by it, but the audience always does. The audience is always like, just let Austin finish. So we're trolling
them.
them.
When he asked the question, please. I know.
All right, Austin, go ahead.
It's true. I was curious, given how much time you've spent doing performance capture.
Yeah.
You described it like you learned a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious if there was anything specific that you did that you hadn't ever done, like to that, like because I can see learning a lot be his directorial style was just totally different from others, and you learned a lot about how to interact with actors or blah. Like I can see a lot of things along that wavelength, but also just the thing and I'd love to hear about that, but it's a separate thing from the actual techniques of capturing a performance inherent to performance capture. Did he use it in a way that's just novel to the many hours you've spent doing it the way you're used to?
There's something that
was worth the wait.
Yes,
for sure.
There's something that
Can we edit the episode to make it even later in the episode?
The start of the episode.
Before you answer, Troy, Mike, I have to tell you, the amount that you are moving your mic is going to make the levels a nightmare. You keep doing it. It's gonna be a
just
nightmare.
put a compressor on there. You're fine.
Sometimes Mike, like
Just
2
mute me
minutes
for the
into the
entire
episode, goes, I'm just going to increase my gain a little bit, which means that you have to change the way it was edited the whole time before that.
It's like you remember that episode of The Office where they're trying to hide from the cameras.
If you want me to make a video game, I'll do a good job. Right? Not a professional podcast, as is demonstrated. Although I have got a new mic, which I'm going to have in America.
We might have a new mic soon if you're not careful.
Yeah,
going straight to Rami. Your replacement is right in line.
Rami, yeah, though he is better than
But we'll call him Mike just for spite.
Mike 2.
He'd love that. He'd love
Make
that.
his airport situations a lot easier, I think.
Yeah, no shit.
100%. It would speed up the
You've
process.
been randomly selected. These people, please.
Mike? No,
I've
never
never
mind.
heard
That
of
can't be
Mike
right.
Johnson.
Well, I can talk
Steve
about what I learned
White.
about motion capture during the process for sure.
Troy, would you like to answer the question?
Yeah.
I love that we also delayed your answering Austin's delay.
We're so giggly today.
It's kind of now a bit.
Can I insert another question before?
You should. No, it's time. You should. I'm going to just move my mic again. Carry on. Yeah.
I do also want to talk about there's a lost art. I think that sometimes because the advent of the technology allowed us to be able to shoot things that before, like if you go back and watch the early precursors of this, like with Beowulf specifically, what's his name?
Cinematic masterpiece, Zemeckis.
Yeah, Zemeckis. There's a shot where it's the kind of coming out and he's there on the bow of the ship and he was like, they shot that and he goes, we did that in 22 minutes. This would have taken me a week to do. to do the build, to do the camera setups, to do all the everything. It was like, because we just did that in 20. I was like, this is incredible. And
I actually find it very inspiring that something, that episode is so good and that it was made in 2 weeks. Like, yes, more than that when you include the writing and it's still based on a short story and all that, but being able to make something that good in 2 weeks, a lot of talented people, but
I
I'm like,
assume
that's
it's months and months of animation.
for sure.
that's the thing, to capture the core performance. But I remember watching it because we went to a screening of it with Tim Miller and Fincher, and also I'm blanking on her name right now, but also the showrunner, the supervising animation director. She's incredible.
Also loved the animation. The art was so cool.
Dude, I mean,
it had that kind of arcane, like right along the lines of realistic, but definitely
super stylized.
Kind of edging towards like Brink, if you remember Brink, that kind of really elongated, kind of almost French comic book.
I want to see how Ken Levine feels about it, because it felt very Levine-esque to me, just in the style of it. But if you haven't watched Jabaro, that one is truly exceptional as well. It's the very last episode. It is a poem. It is just absolutely beautiful. And
it seemed to me that they hired dancers to play.
That's it.
I haven't seen it. I'll check it out.
There's 2 actors, and we could get into the conversation about that.
I didn't know there were any other episodes. I just watched yours.
I actually only watch or play anything that features Troy Baker. So
I mean,
that doesn't limit things.
No, I got loads of games to play.
In fairness, you got stuff to
Batman.
play. You're fine.
I'm fine.
The Night of the Living
You can
Mini
even
Dead
choose
is
which
hilarious.
character in Batman you want to see.
multiple.
Troy, and choose a different thing based on that. Yeah.
I
Still haven't
thought
answered
that
the
one
question.
I thought that one was cute. Yeah, you
Night of
have
the
it.
Living Mini Dead. I was howling with laughter. Just the way that everything starts off is fucking.
Is that the stop motion one? I've heard about that.
Yes. And Tim Miller wrote that one.
It's very cute, but I remember I saw someone wrote like, this is the best 5 minutes ever made or something. I was like, well, I don't know. That kind of set it up.
Hyperbole on the internet.
Yeah, I know exactly. But it was,
You can't say that.
it was to me your episode and Jabaro are staunchly head and shoulders. I did quite like.
Did you end up watching the first episode, Austin?
First episode.
I watched them all. Yeah, I watched them.
I really didn't like the first episode.
It's.
Was there a pig in it?
It was very, very on the nose. It was too
on the nose. I was like, we know what you're doing.
Yeah, that's the thing. It played its hand, and then it just continuously played that hand over.
But
and
it's
over
also it was a hand that a million other people have already played. It was like, okay,
I agree.
It's something that I feel is important to set the tone of the show, to where, like, even though it's anthological,
I always wonder how they would choose what goes
it's like,
first.
this is not going to be dark.
Didn't they
gritty.
randomize the first series? I think the first series was it was an interesting gimmick. That I think the first series on Netflix was randomized.
It was different in different countries.
Was it really?
Oh, it was in countries.
Yes.
I know it was different in different places. I think second and third they've kind of standardized, but I remember that first one because people were like, "Oh, I love the first episode."
The first episode was very similar to the first episode of this, to where it was funny, dark humor, robot going through it. Like that first opening shot, people were like, "That's The Last of Us." Like they literally did the crane up shot walking down the desolate street.
Funny dark humor robot is a great genre.
Yeah.
What is that?
Funny dark humor robot is what you said.
Funny dark humor robot. Yeah.
What's amazing is how occasional episodes
robot.
of that show are affecting. Like every now and again, they'll have one that's really Jabaro is very, like you said, it's a poem, and it's got this kind of beautiful kind of dark beauty. But every now and again, there's one that's really
Drowned Giant. If you haven't watched that, just from previous one, that's Tim Miller's. Tim Miller directed that one, and it surprised me because he's just
it's touching.
Yeah, and without being too sentimental, but it's just like it really is. It doesn't rely on sentiment to do its. And there's stuff from previous volumes. Go back and watch. They're just really, really clever. And man, especially Blur Studios. I can't say enough about how incredibly talented those people are, and the level of fidelity that they got. Where Pam was sitting there just elbowing me. She's like, "That's real." I was like, "It's not." She's like, "That's real." I'm like, "It's not."
The thing that was so awesome about Jabaro from an animation standpoint was that it would be super photorealistic in certain ways, but then like the way they moved the sword was very animated.
Yeah.
And it was like there's clear choices being made about what to be realistic and what not to be.
They do that
And
in
going
anime.
back and forth
Right?
between
We're at
different
that
styles.
stage where people are playing with that medium.
Yeah, they do that in anime all the time for comedy, and I love it. It's it's not that it looks realistic, it's anime, but then they cut to like extremely 2D, just little dots for eyes, for jokes. I've always really loved that style, and One Punch Man does an incredible job of it. That show's so funny. Yeah. And it like a lot of that is just like shifting animation. Like it shifts in fights, it gets really dirty. Like it's very cool to watch.
Why would they do the same thing in like Teen Titans Go, and there's a lot of shows that are like kids shows. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
SpongeBob doing the opposite, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, where it gets really realistic and gross. Yeah.
Well, that's like the Ren and Stimpy.
They have to learn how to do that, much like Troy had to learn from David Fincher on the set of his new episode.
I forgot what the question Austin even asked was at this point.
Here's what I would say.
I guess I didn't really get an answer.
I learned. You didn't. But here's the thing. What is an answer, really? Let's get into that.
What is truth? What is truth?
I remember once when I was my first thing that I ever did was a pilot for ABC that never got picked up, and I got a chance to meet of all people Lou Diamond Phillips. I know I've never told this story before.
Oh man, you had me. I was like, for 2/3 of that, I was so ready to follow you down that road. Yeah. And then I was like, motherfucker.
I walked outside. I was like, how do I get his attention? And I just stopped smoking at that time. And people are like, fucking fast forward. They could probably get it to the second when I'm done with the story too. I've probably told it so many times. There's many things that I learned from Fincher. One of them is, that man has just looked down the viewfinder of a camera for so long. He knows it so intimately well that I remember specifically when I'm backing up I come running down the stairs and then I, slam down and then I come backing off. And he was like, I need you to look back over your shoulder to see what's up. Can I get out this way and come here? And he was like, put your right hand, it was like playing Twister. He was like, put your right hand here, drop your left foot. Now brace yourself with your left arm. Don't turn your body, look over your shoulder there. And it was like, that's how you look great. I was like, I know the frame. And again, I really have allowed myself to get kind of too wrapped up. It's like, hey, I know what I'm doing at this point. I need you to just stop being so prescriptive and so specific and just let me play with it. Let me see what happens. And then when I allow myself to just really submit myself to somebody else's process, I'm like, damn, first of all, didn't know I could do that. Secondly, he would teach me, he's like, here's why. Here's the framing that you're getting. Now you've got this, straight line of your jaw. It doesn't mash into your neck. It actually, and I was like, damn, you really know what you're talking about. So I learned that. But with
is a way to summarize that it was just more laser precise than normal?
He would point to spots on the mat box and go, look here, now look here, look here, look here. From my eye line, he goes back to here, this. Look here. And that's exact on this lens with this distance for this effect. I want you to look here. But he would still get caught looking sometimes. Cool. He was like, why
just
can't
having that kind of expertise is just the best. And when you get to be around them and see it and learn from it, like it's just the best.
But to even see him make a mistake.
That music video experience coming through, right? A lot of that kind of that original kind of what was the name of the group he was with that did all the music videos? Not Collective or
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Collective sounds right though.
It's something like that. But yeah, that kind of specificity feels very much like I have to shoot, a bunch of shots in 2 days with someone who is not an actor but can sing well. It's like it's that kind of specificity that's kind of carried through.
And I think it's because he was just like, I'm open to anything you have to say. Do you have a better idea? My argument is really, really strong. So if your argument is better than mine, I will happily yield to it. But if it's not, stand the fuck down. Did you witness that?
Did anybody go, hey, what do you think of this?
My favorite
Did
moment.
Did anyone win an argument with it?
My favorite moment. So Tim Miller handpicks every story. And he is the most voracious reader I've ever met. He goes, I burn through Kindles because I just break them. He won't read actual books. He was like, because I can't carry that many with me. Yeah. He will just burn through books. And he and Fincher have known each other for a very long time. So Tim is just a very unassuming dude. He's always barefoot. He wears jeans, same t-shirt, and he'll just kind of walk. He looks like Dana White. He looks like a wrestler. He's got cool tattoos, sleeves on both arms. And he just kind of will walk around the perimeter of the volume. And for the most part, he kind of stayed out of the way. He was there to be a producer, but just kind of like, it's David Fincher's show, just let him run it. But he definitely had specific ideas of what he wanted and why he chose this story and how it's kind of maybe getting away from the source material a little bit. And so finally, day 7 or whatever, day 6, he goes, Fincher was just choosing one thing. He's like, yeah, you guys can just kind of come through here. And he was kind of just maybe glossing over a beat that Fincher thought, or Tim thought. And he goes, David, I really appreciate what you're doing, but I just kind of disagree. And he goes, what? He goes, well, based upon, the original short story and what he's talking about here, and in nautical terms, what would actually be happening is this, and you wouldn't actually do that. They would make sure that they would want him to, and he just starts going into a very, very exhaustive, incredibly cogent, argument full of salient points to support, like, based upon this, not only the source material, the tone that we're going for, but also these are nautical people, and they would not be doing this. They would absolutely make sure that they would go to this first before doing that. And Fincher goes, yeah, chicks dig that. Ready in. Just got going. And you saw Tim just go, fuck. But it was just, and there was such a great fraternity and, like, without being bros, it was just friendship. And he was like,
well, that's years, right? That's years. That would be really rude if you weren't like.
But the air, the air was cut by his wit in that, just the timing of, yeah, chicks dig that. Ready in. Here we go. But what I feel, what is another lesson that I learned from him, to finally answer your question, Austin. And now we cue the music and we go, hi everybody, I'm Alanah Pearce. Days of love, blah, playing over the credits. Is that with the advent of all this technology, boy, you guys didn't know you were going to get a Troy Baker episode, did you? Fuckers.
No, I was always going to headline it.
The fact that.
Fine.
It's like Family Guy. It's a Meg episode.
It's a Meg episode.
For changing
Here's your
channel.
chance. You guys, please put at the very top of this. By the way, it's a Troy episode. If you guys want to tune out now, go for it.
A very Troy episode is the name of the episode.
The fact that with the advent of all this technology, we have lost kind of the foundation of what it's based upon. Hey, we don't have to actually have our camera here on the day, so let's just not worry about camera. Let's just really focus on how the actors feel about this. And we don't have any really lighting, so we can think about that later, but we never think about where the light source is coming from. And so I've seen a lot of games specifically that, oh shit, the reason why we chose this shot was because something organic happened on the set, or an actor did something, or the way that the lens happened to look in this space. And so getting away from that, but a very critical thing that I saw, not only on this shoot, but also on another shoot, was coverage. And because we shoot games as each scene is a play, right? So we're
really
shooting that.
To ask is the biggest differences between games for mocap and something like this for mocap, or if there are major differences.
I can't speak to how everybody else worked, because I think different directors are going to work different ways. Some people are very familiar with performance capture as a medium and as a process, and so they will kind of lean more into those things. Fincher was like, I don't know, man. I don't know what this. Give me a camera, and I know how to shoot
his
that.
First performance capture of that scale.
First one of this scale.
He's very tech savvy. He's been like,
yeah, but he's not a Luddite.
Kind of pioneering.
He's an analog dude. Like, he is like, you look at Mank and the way that he actually, Austin, you would appreciate this. He wanted to record the sound in mono. So he went to a theater that was built in the 1920s and used period accurate mics to play back the music and the sound and record that with those mics so that it was authentic, truly authentic to that time. Just as a choice. I was like,
that score, I think I have it here. I can kind of pull a mic. Because that score,
you could probably play a bit, right? You could probably play a bit.
That score was a huge about face for
Trent
Reznor and Atticus Ross, because it's like this Bernard Herrmann style 1930s sort of quasi jazzy melodramatic orchestra kind of sound. And when they were doing the Oscar campaigns, hold on, let me see if I have it.
Where is your piano?
Don't worry about it.
See it?
Yeah, he moved it over there and it's freaking me out. I don't like change.
Move it back.
That's
no.
I know. Sorry. I had a meeting and it was blocking the couch.
You've got to commit.
All right, go find your book. So now I'm going to answer the question. And I'm going to make sure that, and more than anything, that's what I learned. I'm glad I finally answered the question.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with us. That's powerful.
I love how you were 4 seconds away from answering it definitively.
It was a really interesting answer. It's
Party
something I
answer.
missed it.
Look at that.
Oh, nice.
See,
Nice.
studios would often send out CDs and DVDs, screeners for the awards consideration. For Mank, they sent handwritten sheet music from the score.
Holy shit.
Handwritten, so they wow.
Yeah, like you can see, this is, it's a little bit, let me turn this so you can actually.
I'm like upset about you folding that because I like look at that as such a high value.
Me too.
Document.
I didn't say that.
Like,
Like, ooh.
Yeah, please don't fold that. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's so
not typeset.
cool.
And so just the very fact that they would be using handwritten scores speaks to the mono thing as well, like the authenticity of how would it have been done. I thought this was cool.
Common at all, Austin, that people would handwrite a score? I'd imagine not.
Not anymore. No,
John
There's no
Williams
real
does.
reason to do that, right?
John Williams does, but as soon as he's
Really?
handwritten the score, he gives it to the copyists who immediately put it in the software and digitize it because they have to mass produce parts for
Yeah.
a
100
whole
people.
orchestra.
Yeah.
Yeah. The reason that job is called copyist is because in the old days it would be a room full of people crowded around a table with one conductor score, and they're all literally like I'm
monks.
making the violin part. Yeah, exactly.
Illuminated
And,
text, maybe changing some things in the margins, depending upon your mood.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
I don't think people should get married.
Yeah, exactly.
Doctrine.
And it was. Anyway, I thought of all the funny thing. I don't think they ended up getting nominated for this one, but they may
Should have probably, done it on a computer. That would have probably
Yeah, exactly.
Probably should have sent an actual screener.
So-
A bit more helpful
Yeah,
for people to
don't
watch.
Pretty sure it had a
handwritten
screener in
shit
there
out.
as well.
I assume
Oh,
so.
But
and
yeah,
also
it was
the-
like this huge package that showed up.
I
I thought that was a really cool way to promote your
Yeah.
if you're doing the awards thing, at least that's a cool way to do it,
I throw away the discs because I'm like, I don't have a hard format anymore, guys.
I know,
don't-
sadly I'm in the same boat.
They also
by the
send
way,
screeners out
you should-
for most things in 720p. They don't even send screeners in 1080. Majority
What's
of
hilarious to me is also
SAG
going
screeners are 720.
Relatable stuff we talk about this podcast.
Here,
Yeah.
here is something that is on a platform called Netflix. It's
they
on your
were
computer.
nominated for score. I stand corrected.
Yeah,
They just didn't win.
You
won?
corrected
Who won?
yourself and then said, I stand corrected.
Yeah.
You didn't have to do that. It's
himself.
okay.
Whoever
won
said that was a
year,
fucking
Austin?
idiot. Okay.
Try
Someone
something
with a
on
CD,
Netflix.
presumably.
Well, no, it's just like, yeah, it's like, here's your disc.
Oh, yeah.
for
a screener for
something
something on
I'm like,
Netflix. Yeah.
well, go to Netflix
Yeah,
and
just
watch
give
it.
me a code. Like, it is a
Trent
strange choice.
Reznor and Atticus Ross still won, but they won for Soul, the Pixar film.
That's
so I forgot
right.
They
We
had, I
talked
forgot they
about
were double
that.
nominated against themselves.
We could do a little
They've gone
cutaway
broad,
to
haven't
our
they?
own
In terms
episode.
of like they've done a wide range of scores.
Yeah.
Which
Kind
you would-
of. It's,
Given that everyone else is kind of still ripping off their first one.
it's more like
It's interesting that everyone else.
I feel like Soul. Everything fits under a certain trajectory, and Soul was the big outlier. I don't see it as like emblematic of a huge wide thing. Although Mank was, while still emotionally in the kind of sort of darker end of the spectrum that they tend to live in, it was executed in a way wildly outside of the kind of Nine Inch Nails-y thing that
God, he's so
They're so
fucking
known for it.
talented.
So talented, man.
he is a very talented
There are
dude.
some people it just annoys me, you know?
Atticus also is not to be underestimated
No,
because
for
if you
sure.
listen to Atticus, I always wondered actually how the division of labor worked, because when I heard the score to the Book of Eli, which was Atticus by himself, I was like, this is
that's
every bit
Gary's
as
movie.
good.
yeah, that's Gary messed that up. Not.
No, I love that
sucked.
score. That's my point. Like, that was Atticus. I thought this is every bit as good as when they worked together.
Maybe Trent sucks then.
No, he
Oh,
doesn't.
I mean, maybe he's
That
Evidence
guy-
is there.
maybe
Did
he's
you
just a
see
pretty
it?
face.
Did you see his his part in the Foo Fighters or Dave Grohl's documentary where he kind of did a song with all these different people? Did one with Paul McCartney, did one with Trent Reznor. He
That's
just-
cool. Didn't they make the Foo Fighters make a
That
movie?
sounds cool.
Yeah, right before.
Do like a horror film.
I
recently,
love
right?
that. Like, I love that a band just doing whatever the fuck they want to is just
He's
very
a good
cool.
dude, man.
Shit, yeah, that would have been right before.
They
Right,
haven't made
it
music
came
in a
out
pretty long time.
right before he died.
Yeah.
That was a huge. I was like, wait a minute, what? That was kind of like Kobe Bryant level. Like, wait a minute, no, you don't die yet.
Yeah.
You're totally fine.
Yeah, it sucks.
All right, aside from that, so with the advent of all this technology, I feel like we've been able
religion,
to
death,
motherfucker,
robots.
The coverage specifically, and being able to just stay in a moment and just try different things, just micro things, as opposed to we've shot it all. It's challenged me. It's inspired me as a director. Like I want to, even if it's just VO, being able to utilize some tenements of film that for some people who may not do a lot of VO, who know how to kind of manipulate their performance in a way because they're used to this medium. If they're not, when they're normally told, we're close on you, like I want to be tight on you. And so that inherently will change their performance. So being able to utilize some of those tenements and not throw them away just because technology has allowed us to no longer depend on them can start impacting the art and the performance.
So I know it'll be a long time before we get into any kind of meat on Summerfall and Stray Gods.
Yeah.
But it's no secret that you are
excited.
Directing our cast on that game. And having watched you direct like 1,000 sessions now.
No.
It didn't occur to me that this wasn't something you would have always done.
No, this is literally right off of that, and the second shoot that I did. I was like, we've forgotten how to do this.
Because there are times where, you'll say to the actor, this is your arms folded here. And it's not like they're in a vocal booth. They're not, it's not like you need to literally fold your arms, and most of the time they don't. But the implications that go with that give them what they need to work with.
I would find that very helpful. Like
super helpful.
So
again,
not
as somebody
only
It's been
did
really
Austin's
cool to watch. It's been really cool to watch because
Austin's question got answered,
did.
but Austin has also directly benefited from the
I know,
answer to his question.
I feel like this might be the last episode of this show.
This is maybe the end of the
learned.
show. Maybe this is the end
A
of the show.
perfect example, Austin, is the best, and I use this a lot, the best conducting advice that you were given
From John Mauceri.
was?
To hold my feet together.
Stick.
Hold your feet together. Why?
why? Yeah.
It just has a domino effect of like it modifies your posture, which then modifies your perceived confidence. You can't really slouch.
That's fascinating. That is the best advice you've received.
We were literally at the poolside restaurant at the Beverly Hills Hotel, and he lives in New York, so he was visiting LA either to conduct. I think he was doing Nightmare Before Christmas at the Hollywood Bowl. He does a lot of Danny Elfman stuff, and he was like, "Meet me for lunch." We had lunch, and he points at a table 3 tables over, and he goes, "That's where Jerome Robbins, Arthur Lawrence, Stephen Sondheim, and Leonard Bernstein decided to change it from East Side Story to West Side Story because they were reading about gang warfare and like turf wars in New York City." And then he had just seen Mythos.
No way.
And that's where I first met him, was in the lobby after Mythos. He came to that show, and it was either that or when we did Journey Live in New York. I can't remember how far back.
I'll say it's Mythos so I can somehow be adjacent.
Yeah, you
to
can
it.
be a part of it. Yeah. So that was our first rodeo. Yeah. And anyway, I said, I was like nervous to ask. We talked for like an hour, and then finally I go, okay, so I have to just ask how you feel about my conducting. Because I'm always like, I'm a composer-conductor. I'm not a conductor-composer. Like, conducting is an outgrowth of composing, and it's not my
Are there a
goal
lot
to be
of conductors who don't compose?
The majority of professional conductors are at best,
presumably they're conducting music that was written.
They're like, they're conducting Stravinsky and Beethoven and Mozart.
Yeah, sure, but I mean, would they not also? I would just be. How
a lot of them are trained.
Okay, you just trained to become a conductor.
A lot, like even Mauceri has a degree in composition, but he hasn't written music in like probably 50 years.
So they are trained in composition, like Alanah's saying. So they have got.
No. That like I think it's like it's not. There are people that study conducting. They get degrees in conducting. That's all they do. But there are a good chunk of them that do compose music here and there, but making it as a conductor is such a uphill climb. There's so few slots that it's a full-time gig to really have a shot at. So they just,
what do you mean by you being a composer conductor? Like, do you think that because you're a composer first and that's what you do most of the time, it changes the way you conduct?
It just means that if given finite amount of time, I will always focus on being a better composer first than being a better conductor.
I see. So you haven't, you feel like you haven't,
to them.
Like I will, there will always be conductors who are better than me. In other words, like, and that's
but no composers ever.
No composers.
Yeah.
Get out, John Williams.
Show you.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Bear.
And, the point is, it's just where you put your priorities. You know, there's some people that are truly adept at both. Leonard Bernstein is one of the rare examples of somebody who was a truly original, amazing composer, despite the fact that he was also like the most famous American conductor. But he's the only one. He's the only example. You think of every other famous conductor, Gustavo Dudamel, Michael Tilson Thomas, none of them are known as composers. Esa-Pekka Salonen was conductor of the LA Phil for many decades and stopped in order to focus.
That sounds like a medicine for diabetes.
Yeah, what?
Say that name again, please.
Salonen. He's from Finland.
Can we do an episode at some point in the future? I've decided the show needs to continue because I want to episode.
We haven't had a Biffle episode.
You were just a hair's breadth away from quitting.
I'm pitching an Austin. I'm pitching an Austin episode. I fundamentally, I don't think we have time right now to go into it because you've all got to go back to work, but I fundamentally don't understand what conducting is. As a layman, I look at it, I don't get it. It's most professions, you can look at it and you can go, okay, I don't fully understand how this profession works, but I understand why driving a bus is difficult, right? Whereas with conducting, I must admit, like as the layman, I look at it, I see a man wiggling a stick.
Well, before this podcast and a lot of the conversations with Austin, I was always like, I don't know. I think that man just kind of stands there and isn't needed. Like, I think that he maybe helps a little bit. I don't know.
Exactly. It's like a nice thing. I genuinely,
you're far from
I
alone.
say this with absolute humility and genuine, like honestly, I want to know what I'm
Earthquake
missing,
at Mike's house.
I get so much more out of watching. Yeah.
I'd
enjoy watching music more, I think, if I knew the craft of what's going on there.
Yeah, well,
if I may suggest, if you ever get the opportunity to go to any kind of classical performance, opera, whatever, not only with Austin, but also with Andrea Pacino.
Yeah.
Holy.
Really?
I exclusively see performances of the Journey soundtrack. I don't see any other music in life.
Oh, yeah.
That's my only.
As one should.
Fortunately, it's always playing somewhere. So
it is.
Why is Andrea also like just? I know that he's the guy that you take to music stuff.
No, he takes us.
Right. 100. We are his plus ones.
I like him. He's very cool.
We are the Pearce holders in that situation, 100%.
Andrea is first off, he was a child prodigy level pianist growing up who decided to become a programmer, but he's a fully capable composer. He owns a massive synth collection.
Did he do the music on? He worked on The Order, right?
Yeah.
He's a co-founder. He and two others are co-founders of Ready at Dawn.
Ready at Dawn, yeah. But did he do the music on that too?
No, he's the technical director. He's
so nuts to have that diversity of
He basically
skill.
built their physics. That was what he did.
Okay.
How impressive. And he's super buff. And very nice.
He's like a former world champion bodybuilder.
Buff and nice.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He is the most gentle, poetic. He cried when we did the Journey recording in London. Every song he cried, and just like
the best was when he cried and he went to look for a tissue, and all he could find was disinfectant wipes, and he wiped his face with it. So he looked like he was
burning.
dying.
I was like, I know, man.
So
what a beautiful moment.
This is the last episode of the show.
No, these are burning my.
Maybe we now just let him. He can just have it.
If ever there was
every episode is just him by himself.
No, what Troy is also alluding to is that after the recording session, one of the nights, Andrea saw that the Royal Opera House was doing Verdi's Nabucco, and so he just bought tickets for us all and was like, "We're going to the opera." By the way,
second row, directly behind the conductor.
We were like we were basically in the pit.
In the pit.
And Yeah. No, I mean the orchestra pit. I mean, where they were like,
yes.
we were. I could have reached out and tapped him on the shoulder.
He was the most animated. Like you could.
Yeah, you heard his breathing. You heard his breathing through the whole show. It was so funny. It was awesome. Yeah. It was so, and Andrea just so passionate.
I love that. That's the best way to, like, in terms of like just advice to like people watching this, like going to an experience or having an experience with like someone who's like into it. Like that's I think I've said that on the show before. Like if I ever find out someone's like obsessed with something, I'll actively I'll find out, oh, you love whiskey? Oh, cool. I'm going out drinking with you.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Teach
me
going out
about
with like a connoisseur of like a thing is like just the best experience you can have of
Rahul
anything.
just bought me some really pretty paintbrushes. I think they're Artist Opus. And he's going to teach me how to paint minis. And I'm super excited about it. Like,
are you only allowed to paint minis of his head though?
Yeah, it's got to be his head sculpt that he had 3D rendered.
Yeah.
There's a joke there. I'm going to leave it alone.
Leave it alone, Troy. Leave it alone.
Love you, Rahul.
Well, look, we can. I'll happily walk you through conducting some other time. But there was some. What was the thread though? That it was the thing about John Mauceri. It just blew my mind that I was so nervous to ask him for advice on my conducting, because he's a real conductor. He's conducted basically every orchestra in the planet. He was Bernstein's pick for the last 18 years of Bernstein's life, where if he couldn't do it, John Mauceri is going to be the one to do it. Like he conducted premieres of Bernstein's original music. He was, he's the real deal. It was exactly as Troy is saying, where he just goes, stand up. And like, we're at the restaurant in the backyard, basically, of this hotel. And I was like, what? And he goes, just like, treat me as the concertmaster and prepare a downbeat for me. So I stood up next to the table and stood up, and he goes, now freeze and look at your feet. And he was like, just slide them together. And it's, everything else is going to take care of itself from there. Because it was crazy how your whole body just changes from that. Like you can't, if the things that I was doing with my feet spread apart would make me fall over physically, I wouldn't be able to hold my balance.
Like My Fair Lady, it's brilliant. That's
it was so succinct.
Powerful, specific thing that kind of changed.
Yeah, I love that anecdote. There's something about that that's like someone just giving you a tip like that you would never think of. Yeah, that just affects that. That's very cool. That's super
really cool.
Yeah, it was very unforgettable moment. And very
like
generous.
To the thing that sparked this, which is like Troy telling a voice actor to fold their arms or whatever. I was saying, like, as somebody who is not very good at acting and still learning, one of the hardest things I ever did that didn't go anywhere because I couldn't do it was I had to die, and
So they rewrote the character to live. Is that what you're saying?
Someone else got cast because I couldn't do it.
Really?
Yeah, which is like fair. I couldn't do it. I was like, I don't know how to do this. I had to die a fiery death in a car. And I kept trying to do things with my voice, and I wish that somebody, like, thinking about it now, because it's one of the first things I ever did, I wish somebody had told me to do something physically, because it never occurred to me that I should have like been physically pressing something or pushing something or like exerting, because I just tried. I was just like, it's all emotion, but it's not. It had to be physical, but I wish I had that tip. It's so interesting to think about.
I wish I had an anecdote about a luminary of my industry telling me to do something physically with my body. I've been asked, Warren Spector once asked me to pass him some garlic bread. That would be awesome.
I want to clip that.
Yeah, my head just went to...
Mike, thank you for trusting us with that. Now share your truth.
Yeah, exactly. Where on the doll?
Fuck me.
That's what I was going to say. I've had some people in the industry tell me to do some things with my body. None of them are great. None of them are great.
I would highly recommend if whether you want to direct actors or be an actor that's better directed, Judith Weston has a great book called Directing Actors, and I'm still in the middle of reading it because I jump in between books all the time. But the main thing is to go to, like you were talking about, Alanah, as far as an emotional thing. If I say we need to be angry in this, you're angry right now. What does that mean? Like you may get really quiet when you get angry, and I maybe get really, really loud.
I get really quiet.
So now we're in conflict, and first we have to agree on what anger is and how we demonstrate that, as opposed to And typically, whenever someone gives what's called a result-oriented direction, it's always out of insecurity. It's because they're lazy. They're not willing to go the extra step of saying, you might as well just line read the person. The difference is going objective obstacle action. All right? So here's what you want to do. Here's what's in your way of that. Do something about it. And one of my main things that give us direction is control the conversation. We're ordering dinner. Control the conversation.
What does that mean?
A lot of times people have a tendency, especially if they're being very passive, or they're really what's happening is they're being quiet and they're just kind of falling into like a sleepy place and just kind of getting here. It's like, okay, here's what's happening. They're saying this. I need you to pick a position on what they're saying to you, and then control the conversation. Every time they want to come back to you, bring it back to you. And just re-intuiting or looking at the lines through a different lens of going, I understand what you're saying, but I just wanted to interject real quick. And take control of the conversation again. It's always better to give somebody an action and give them something to do as opposed to now be angry.
Yeah.
Well, if it's competently written as well, that should be in the text. Like if you're doing a scene where that's not there, then that's a badly written scene, right?
It's yes and no, because a lot of times, I mean, like, who was it? Story, Robert McKee says, if what we're talking about is what we're talking about, we're not talking about anything. So the subtext should be there. So if we're talking about ordering dinners, like, are we going to have the chicken tonight? It's really hard to go, you understand what he's saying by that, right? It's like, well, no, now we have to infuse the actual character into that. It's like, oh, so we're having chicken tonight. Now there's a position that's being. Now I have something that's someone can act off of.
Have you guys seen Unforgiven?
The Clint Eastwood movie?
Yeah.
Hated it when I first saw it, and it took me being an adult much later to go, fuck, he was brilliant.
Rahul, we're talking about Unforgiven. I just asked him if they've seen it.
Director of photography is just like...
He made me watch it.
That, by the way, these two cameos are your best performances ever.
I did.
He did
I
so much with so little.
It's the...
that's it. What was his driving action in that though, Troy? Do you think?
Wow. That was a whole monologue. I can't believe I'm forgetting the actor's name. The sheriff?
You talking about Clint Eastwood?
No. Clint Eastwood.
You talking about Rahul?
The sheriff. Talking about Rahul
From Midnight Mass.
The sheriff in Unforgiven.
From Midnight Mass. I really like
his name's Rahul.
His name is Rahul. Very advanced.
I don't remember what his name is. It was just the performance of that character, who you slowly kind of realize is technically the bad guy, but isn't explicitly. It's very interesting because he does things that are intimidating in a way that is not traditionally intimidating. It was just a very, very interesting performance to me. Like, he's intimidating by virtue of sort of being calm in a situation that isn't calm. And there are so many ways that you could have played that and so many choices that he could have made. And I think the one he chose is very, very interesting. It had a lot of...
I love the notion true power never asserts itself.
Yeah.
And to me, when people are like, they get loud or they get angry,
they're insecure about
it, as opposed to being like, I don't have to flex.
Yeah.
A lion is actually very quiet. The chuff that a lion will give can be heard for miles.
Wasn't it the Spartans that would basically just stand in total stoic silence when facing down like an enemy army? And normally, the armies bang on their swords and their spears against the shield and try to really be this intimidating force, and they would just stand there and just project complete and total discipline.
Yeah,
I feel like that was the Spartans. I could be wrong, but
it was the Spartans, and it's
either way it would
Leonidas.
work. Whoever did it, it would
they had really good torsos though, didn't they? That was the
Gates of Fire. I think is a great book that talks about.
I read that book.
It's a great book.
Essentially about what the 300 is portraying.
And specifically, it goes far more into Leonidas and.
Did it happen?
What is it?
Huh?
Is it actually a historical event, or is it like mythology? The Spartans, the 300. Is that sounds? Is it real? Did it actually happen?
It's all, but it's of course been
heightened,
mythologized and
built up. Yeah.
To a degree.
Because I think Gates of Fire is a novel. It's not like a history book.
Oh, okay.
Historical fiction novel that recounts the Battle of Thermopylae.
But there was the whole thing is that there were 300 men that stood against the entire army of Persians.
Silently,
apparently, with great abs though.
Every single one of them.
Before we head off
Excuse
today,
me, just real quick touch up. There you go.
I got some trophies.
For what?
These right here.
Well done.
For the
Those are my
Communicator
nipples.
Awards that I was going to deliver to you, Troy and Austin, because you
Hey.
also have trophies, because we won an award for communication.
Ouch.
Look at us go. Mike, you'll get yours when you're next here,
Ouch.
okay?
When are we
Oh,
doing the
I
live
got a
thing?
trophy. I thought I had got a trophy. I thought it was like,
No,
well done,
you
Troy.
also
Austin
have a
and Alanah.
trophy.
You get trophies for the
But
show.
I was gonna like
Mike, your contribution.
one
not
day
there,
maybe
yeah.
drive to both of you, Austin and Troy, and drop them off. I figured.
Drive all the way out to me. Let's do that.
I would
When we
like
get
to. It'd be
Trek.
nice to
It's
come see your
fun.
place. I would love to.
We just finished our backyard and it looks awesome.
Yeah, bring the dog. It'll be great.
What? You can bring yours.
It'll be nice.
And also Rahul. Maybe.
The sheriff. We call him the
We
sheriff.
call him the sheriff.
Yeah, we'll still try and do a live show, but again, it depends kind of now when Mike is back. We have a venue that is allowing us to do it.
We can talk about that a little bit after we finish recording.
Okay,
All
cool.
right,
Yeah,
all
I'd love to. We'll figure it out at some point. They have a lot of
Okay.
flexibility, and they're like excited to have us go. It just when we tried to do it happened to be Star Wars Celebration,
We're way
so
more
the whole
important.
week was a bit of a mess.
Fair point.
Thank you for caring about the show that I'm in and my specific and taking the time to be a little more focused on me. I really do appreciate
Troy, I
the
loved it.
opportunity.
We're
It
so
was
proud
brilliant.
of it, man. Like it, yeah.
It was it was so fucking good. It
it
was
was
one of
really
those
good
things
work.
that like, and it
Really
doesn't
good
happen to
work.
me very often that I watched it and then I just sat and thought about it. Like, you know, one of those like it just fucking sits with you. Like, God, it was so good.
It was great. You were great in it.
Yeah,
you.
and it's also
Thank you.
that's the thing we've had a conversation about before. That I think it was Mike. One of my favorite genres of anything ever, and if it's a very good tell if you're a good writer, is things either taking place in just one place or in one room. It's just all that, and it is all that.
Bottle
and it's
episodes,
so
man.
fucking good. Loved it.
I have one final question for Mike Bithell.
Yes.
How is my accent?
Do you know what? I can genuinely answer that question. Your accent was so good that I turned to Kerry when we were watching it. I was like, I thought this was the Troy one, but I'm not sure. And that is the
didn't know
greatest
Troy was
compliment
British.
I can pay you.
He's been doing a bit
Troy
this
is the
whole
guy.
time.
Troy, what was your first question when you showed up to record VO for me?
It's like, maybe we can do a British accent with this guy. You actually did it. You didn't even ask. You're like, let me
I
just
flew
kind of,
all the way to LA.
To your credit.
You're offering me a British
to
accent.
your
Yes.
credit, you were like, let me just hear what
Yeah.
you want to do with this. I was like, I was thinking maybe this. I did that. And he just went, no British.
Well, that happened to me too when I worked with Mike. I wanted to do American, and he said no. I was like, okay, because I'm a much better actor in an American accent. Much.
I'm
better.
a lot like Fincher in a lot of ways.
10
I'm a lot
fucking
like
times.
Fincher.
better.
I want to hear all the ideas, but you know.
But also shut up.
I will say that women don't like you if I disagree with you.
All right, thank you for watching, everybody. I'm Alanah. I'm a video game writer. That's Troy.
Yeah,
Baker. He's a video
Spotify
game actor.
listeners.
That's Austin Wintory. He's a video game composer, and that's Mike Bithell. He is a video game director. We got trophies. I can't thank the audience. It wasn't voted, but thank you for listening to the show anyway.
Yeah.
We appreciate
Well,
it.
if you weren't here, presumably we wouldn't have got them. So thank you.
Yeah, that's true. Nobody would have found the show. So thank you.
Essentially.
Yeah, the
you
show
had a
would
part in
be-
it.
yeah.
It's our
This would
trophy.
just
I
be a
guess we'll give
recurring
you some
Zoom call.
credit. Jeez.
We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.